Hello, I'm Brent Stafford, and this is Aftermath of Murder, Survivor Stories, a multi-part video series produced in support of the National Victims of Crime Week. For those who have experienced the devastating loss of a loved one to murder, the path can be harrowing. From police notification through the investigation and the court process, there is confusion, sadness, and always intense anger. Joining us today is Wiebe, chair of the board for Manitoba Organization for Victims Assistance. The nonprofit provides one-on-one support for survivors of murder. Thank you for joining us today, Karen.
Thanks for having me, Brent.
Why the special focus on murder?
Mova began to focus more on murder because there are so many areas of crime. There are so many things that happen to people, and for us to spread ourselves too thin wasn't working with the approach that we use, which is victims helping victims.
And it's really in-depth support, isn't it?
It is very in-depth. It is as much as a person needs and wants.
There's something uniquely special in terms of murder, isn't there?
Very much so. When an individual is murdered, it is unlike any other experience. Not only do you have to deal with the death of a loved one, but now you're going to be dealing with the police, and you're going to be dealing with press. You're going to be dealing with the court processes. And it is very complicated. At the worst time of your life, you're dealing with more complications than at any other time of your life.
What's the range of emotion that you have to help them deal with?
The range is huge because, of course, everybody's an individual and it depends on the circumstances. We deal with people that are grieving. We deal with people who are confused. We deal with people who are angry.
Why is that? What is it about the court process that is so confusing and anger-ridden?
The court process is a process that's very impersonal. The victim has no standing in the court process. It could be anybody. They're quite meaningless, actually, in the whole process. And the victim's family is even more meaningless. So you have nobody speaking for you. You have nobody speaking for your loved one. And so it isn't as if, for example, when our son died, it wasn't the prosecutor prosecuting on behalf of TJ Wiebe. It was the prosecutor prosecuting on behalf of Canada. And so that puts your victim, your loved one, at an intense disadvantage, in our opinion, because they have no standing. They're not recognized, other than, clearly their name is mentioned, but they're not seeming to be important. And the fact that your loved one has died is very important to you. So when you go to court and find out that they're not really that important in the whole process, it's really Canada that's important, and Canada's laws and Canada's rules of evidence, and not the truth as you see it or know it in terms of your loved one's murder. It involves you in intense anger.
That's pretty stark, that reality, isn't it?
It is a very stark reality, and nobody will understand that until they've dealt with the court process.
So how do you help survivors go through that? You're one yourself, so do you draw on that experience?
Absolutely. I don't go to court with people myself, but we have a court support worker who is there to help explain what's happening, to smooth the road, to make sure that the family, for example, has seats at the trial. The victim's family is not guaranteed even a seat at the trial. If you have a group of school students that come in and take up all the seats, there really is no standing for the victim's family is to even have a seat, and you can't stand. So no seats, no being there. And so the court support worker that we have will go in and ask people, do you mind? The family don't have seats. Would you consider giving up your seat for them?
I would think most Canadians didn't know that that's the case.
Absolutely. Most Canadians have no idea what it is like to go through the process that victims of homicide go through all the time, every day of the court process.
So what happens after? How does Mova support a survivor?
Mova is around as long as anybody needs us. Just because you finish court doesn't mean that you're finished grieving. In fact, many people don't start grieving until they're finished court. Depending on the situation, if people start court soon after the murder, they really haven't had a time to grieve yet. We have a variety of ways of supporting people, from sharing groups, from information sessions, literature as to what services are legally available and that survivors are legally entitled to.
So what can the community do to help Mova?
The community, first of all, does not understand what it is like to go through the process that we go through.
It's more than just the headlines they read in the news.
It is the devastation of your life. And so when you're going through this process, there is nothing worse, and you have to survive it somehow. So I think that most people do not understand what survivors of homicide need in terms of time, in terms of resources. Just the fact that some people are very unfortunate in terms of going to court, for example. Maybe their jobs won't stay open to them, or maybe they have to take vacation time to go to court. And of course, with our court processes, sometimes court is delayed many times. So a person might set up to take their holiday time to be able to go to court, and then court gets canceled, but they can't change their holidays.
So understanding from employers, from family and friends. What about financial help?
Financial help is crucial to an organization like Mova because we're nonprofit. There are definite ways that the public can help through donations to help pay for staff, pay for our office space, pay for the costs of having sessions of support for victims, being understanding and supportive in a very real way. For example, on Saturday, we are going to be having a march. People in the community can show their support by coming out and marching with us and letting the world know that they support us.
As a partner organization to Aftermath of Murder, all of the information will be on the Aftermath of Murder website.
Absolutely.
So people can donate. I want to thank you very much for coming today.
You're welcome.
If you or someone you know has experienced a loss through homicide, go to the Manitoba Organization for Victim Assistance website at mova.ca to find available resources and information on homicide support. If you are interested in volunteering or to make a donation, please visit the website or call the numbers below. This has been Aftermath of Murder Survivor Stories.